Happy Friday, sixth graders. We are about to write a narrative, just like we've been working on in writing class, but it's going to be about Hatchet. And we're going to use some of our social studies skills as we learn about hunters and gatherers this week. Listen very closely. Here is your writing prompt. In Chapter 7 of Hatchet by Gary Paulson, we see Brian encounter a bear who appears to be harmless and innocent. Imagine that you are Gary Paulson. Write Chapter 8 of Hatchet. Here are the only requirements. So here's what you have to do in your essay as you write the next chapter. Brian sees the bear again, and they have some type of interaction. So whatever you decide Chapter 8 is going to be about, we have to see this bear appear in it again. Use details about Brian, the bear, and the setting in your story. So here's what I mean. If you talk about how, sorry, this is going to drive me crazy, and the setting in your story. So if you talk about Brian climbing at the top of a mountain, that's going to dock you in points. That's going to get points taken away because that's not going to be true of what we've read in Hatchet so far. Whenever you're asked to continue a story, which you will have to do on your MLQ on Tuesday, you want to make sure you look at details we already learned about the character and setting so they make sense. If there's something about climbing on top of a mountain, then again, that's going to take away points because there's no mountains near Brian. Gary Paulson has told us that in the story. If you talk about how it starts snowing, then that's going to take points away because we know Brian's in an area that's really hot, so there's probably not snow. Also use details about Brian and the bear. If in your story, the next time you write about how Chapter 8, the bear runs up and attacks Brian, that's probably not very good because what we learned about the bear was that he's not looking to fight. He's pretty harmless. So maybe something bad does happen, but it wouldn't make very much sense to use the details about the bear or to make that be a detail about the bear because it's not true with what we've read about the bear so far. Whenever you finish a story, you want it to seem as natural as possible, like it would totally make sense if Gary Paulson was writing this. Next, to make it realistic, use some of the writing strategy that Paulson has been using, like repetition, inner dialogue, character reactions, and character decisions to teach us about Brian, etc. So whenever you're asked to finish a story, you want to see, so what did that author do so that when I finish the story, it makes a lot of sense. Here's social studies coming in. I know we are such social studies beasts, sixth grade, so let's see how well you can do this tricky part. Brian must use natural resources to adapt to his environment in some way. So in Chapter 8, we have to see him interact with the bear again. I want you to use strategies, and he has to maybe make a tool or a weapon, something, by using a natural resource to adapt to his environment in this chapter. We've already seen him use natural resources by taking the tree branches to make that lean-to for shelter. Sorry, hold on.
Please report to the front office. The nation's steward. Please report to the front office.
And so I want you to have him choose another one. And then also be careful, the narrator can't be Brian. So you'll notice that the way Paulson writes the story, it's from a different point of view. Someone saying, Brian went and did this. Brian went and did this. It's not from Brian's point of view. Our story is not written like, I am very tired. I am very hungry. So it has to be consistent. Make sure that yours is just like how Paulson did chapters 1 through 7. Also, very strong word choice, details, and descriptions, just like we practice in writing block, okay? Really, really take me there to whatever happens. So this is something that I want you to use before you start writing. First, what major events will happen in your story? So basically, whatever the gist of your Chapter 8 is going to be, whatever is going to happen in it, just sort of jot down some thoughts right here. Then, what natural resources does Brian use and what does he use them for? Jot that down right here. Again, do not say like how yesterday in our social studies lesson, we took a look at like a deer or a moose with antlers and use those for a weapon. You can't put that here because we haven't seen a moose or an antler in the story. So your natural resource that he chooses has to be from this Canadian wilderness. And then what details about Brian, the setting, and the bear will I definitely include in my story? So make sure you write down like little things in here that you want to keep in mind as you write the story. It's going to be really impressive, again, if you talk about the lake and him going to the lake for water at some point, because that's what he's done so far. We want your Chapter 8 to seem like a really natural continuing of chapters 1 through 7. So go ahead and fill out this brainstorm, then use the rest of the block to get going. Make sure that you do separate indented paragraphs.